All right, so first of all, it says for us that interest is a fee paid when money is invested in a bank or borrowed from a bank. With simple interest, the interest is always calculated on the initial amount invested or borrowed. This initial amount is called the principal or the present value, and we usually use the letter P to denote this value. And we usually use the letter A to represent the final amount after interest has been added. Right, so now I'm asking you to cast your minds back to grade 9, and I'm hoping that you can remember a formula that looked something like this. Okay, now on page 99, it gives us quite a good explanation of what each of these values or these letters represent. So let's just go through it very quickly. We're going to say P, all right, is the initial amount. So that is normally the amount that you put in the bank or the amount that you borrow from the bank. A is going to be the final amount. So after some time has passed, all right, and that was explained to us in the notes. Then we've got a third letter here, which is N, and that is going to be the time in years for us in grade 10. And lastly, I is going to be the actual interest rate. So what this formula says is that in order to work out a final amount, so that's the focus of your formula or the subject of your formula, you are going to need to know how much you invested, for how long, and at what interest. All right? And I know that the first example is going to be very easy for you because it's exactly the same as questions that you would have done in grade 9. Jabu invests 50,000 in a bank that pays simple interest at a rate of 11% per annum. If Jabu invests his money for 2 years, how much money will he have in the bank? Now, what we need you to be able to do when you read this in a test or in an examination is we need you to take a highlighter and to actually highlight all the key pieces of information. All right? So this is what you're going to do. Jabu invests 50,000, so we know that that's important and relevant, in a bank that pays simple interest. Okay, now for the moment, we've only done simple interest, so that's what we're expecting, but later we could have another kind of interest, at a rate of 11% per annum. If he invests his money for 2 years, how much money will he have in the bank? Right, so let's have a look at the values that we are being fed, because now we are going to have to put them into this formula. Right, so let's identify the 50,000. So he invests 50,000, so 50,000 is now, presently. So we're going to pop the 50,000 in and replace the present P with 50,000. Then it says that it's at 11% per annum. So that means that in place of the I, all right, this value here, in place of the I am now going to put 11%. So that is 11 over 100. Then it says that he actually invests his money for 2 years. So the 2 is the number of periods in years. So this is going to be a 2, and this is actually 2 times I. So I'm actually going to put this in brackets, or if you wish, you can put a little dot there to indicate times or a time sign. But what I don't want it to look like is this, because you will agree that that does not mean 2 times 11 over 100. That means 2 and 11 hundredths. Okay. Right, and now it's up to the calculator to do the work for us. So we are going to take our 50,000 and we are going to multiply it by 1 plus 2 times, and I'm putting in my fraction, 11 over 100, and that comes to 61,000. Okay, so let's go back and see if we've answered the question. He invested the money. How much money will he have in the bank? Well, at the end of this time, he's going to have 61,000 in the bank. Notice that because it's a plus, his money has grown. And obviously, when you invest, you want your money to grow. You don't want it to get less. Okay, moving on to the next example then, which is also on simple interest. And so now we are going to be looking at page 100, and the example is about Joan. All right, it says, Joan lends her daughter Fazella 900 rand. Fazella agrees to repay the loan over 9 months at a rate of 15% per annum. How much interest will Joan receive? Okay, so once again, let's just get out our highlighter. We can see then that 900 is important. We know that 9 months is important, and we know the 15% is important. So let's have a look at how we're going to go ahead with this question. Remember our formula, and we do give you this formula at exam time. We give you a formula sheet, and we say that these formulas will be useful. We don't actually tell you which formula to use. You're going to have to discern which is the right one in the right set of circumstances. Okay. All right, so it says, Joan lends her daughter 900 rand. So that is the initial amount. So that's what I'm going to pop in there in place of the P. Then it says that she is going to repay the loan over 9 months. Now, guys, this is where you actually have to put your thinking caps on, because remember I said to you that N is always time in years. So if it was 1 year, this would be a 1. 2 years, this would be a 2. So if I put a 9 in here, that actually means 9 years, not 9 months. Okay? So I cannot put a 9 there. But what I can do is I can say it's 9/12. So in other words, 9 out of 12 months is going to be the portion of the year that it's going to be in the bank. Okay? So let's just remove that for us quickly and say that that's going to be 9/12 of a year, and we're timesing it by the interest rate, which is 15%. 15 over 100. Now, it's up to you if you want to spend one more line just tidying this up, all right, because the 9/12 could be simplified to 3/4. Of course, at the same time, if you wanted to, you could change your 15% to 0.15, but really this line here was not completely necessary. We could have plugged our values into our calculator as it was right there. So let's do that. So we're going to get 900, and we're timesing it by 1 plus. I'm going to keep it as 9 over 12, 9/12, 9 months out of 12 months, and times it by 15 over 100. And our final amount, remember, is money. So it is 1001,25. But now always be careful to just go back and see if you've actually answered the question. And the question is, how much interest will Joan receive? Now, I'm sure that you can see that this amount is the total amount received by Joan. Okay, so over the 9 months, she is going to get payment, and this is the total amount. So in order to work out how much of it is interest, I know that you can see that what we're going to have to do in this case is we are going to have to take the total amount, which is our 1,001 rand and 25 cents, and remove from it the original loan amount, which is 900 Rand. And you can see that that comes to a total of 101 Rand and 25 cents. Okay, now guys, I must just point out to you, all right, so these are my little notations. Please have a look at this in your book on page 100, all right. It is an error of 201.25. So in the book, it's wrong. It's written as 201 Rand and 25 cents, but in fact, the answer is quite clearly 101 Rand and 25 cents. So please, if you could just do us a favor and make that correction, please. Okay. All right. I think that considering that we've done simple interest in grade 9, I think that those two examples are sufficient for us just to understand exactly how simple interest works. Now, simple interest is also used if we go and we approach some kind of a furniture store and we buy a fridge or something where we can't pay the entire amount up front. And we enter into an agreement with the shop called a hire purchase. So let's have a look in more detail what is meant by a hire purchase agreement. And we're going to be working off of page 100 in your textbook.